box arrived for the winch that we're putting on the Jeep Wrangler today. And that's the brand name, although this name right here, what I found is that the same winch is made by different manufacturers or has different manufacturers' names on it, but it's the exact same one. So even though yours may be called something different, it may be the exact same one. And so let's do the open box on here and see what we have. Alright. So we first got our winch here, or our hook that is. We got that in. That's alright. And we have our instructions. We have our hardware for mounting it onto the front bumper. We also have our remote. This is the wired remote. Alright. And we have a little strap, although it's not really orange like the setup I have. This is some, I don't know, I just don't like the color. Alright, we have our ground cable as well. And underneath here, we have a cover for it. I don't think you're going to get much rain protection from that one, so this is more to protect it from the dust, but from rain, forget about it. Set that over here. Move that back a bit. Alright. And we have the power box. So this right here is what we'll mount on top of the Jeep. And you have all of your connections. And you also have 2 wireless remotes as well. So we not only have the wired connection, but we also have wireless remotes as well. It comes with a Fairlead, and nice one I like that is coated black already. I can already let you know this isn't the strongest or most durable of coatings though, so it probably gets scratched up pretty quickly. So it's probably not the best of powder coating, but as long as it's not silver. And then, last but not least, we have the winch itself. See if I can get you guys in on that one. Just bring you guys down a little bit. On here. And let's open it up. So this is it right here. And the way it would be on your Jeep would be, this would be the passenger side of your front bumper, and this would be the driver's side of your front bumper. You have your 4 mounting points down here to mount onto the holes in your bumper if you have the aftermarket bumper. And you have the 3 points for connecting up the wire. For connecting it up is pretty straightforward because if you notice, these are color coded. Right around here is a little ring, red, black, and also yellow. The same as on here, on your 3 short cables, you have yellow, you have red, and you have black. And they have boots too to cover up the bolts or the nuts once you get it all connected as well. So these 3 short ones will connect directly to the winch. This long red one will route back to your battery in your Jeep. And this black one will actually mount on the bottom, if you can see that, down here. So there is in the power box here, where you have a smaller gauge negative wire. This negative wire right here will mount there, including the ground cable here, the separate one. So both of these will mount here, and the other end of this one will be routed back to your battery as well. Okay, so that's kind of the setup, and this is what I purchased separate from here. Let me move this out of the way so you can see it. So this winch right here mounts to your battery, and it will be a continuous feed of power, except when you have it turned off. You have this gauge and disengage lever here where you can engage and disengage the clutch to be able to manually grab the rope and pull it out. But when it's engaged, if the power was to cut on just out of the blue, that can do some big damage. And given that we have these wireless remotes right here, meaning that this winch can be used wirelessly, that means that it can pick up a signal inadvertently from anywhere and possibly turn your winch on and can do some heavy damage to your Jeep, and maybe even to you. So what I'm going to do is, I purchased this off of eBay. I purchased a 2-gauge positive 12-inch cable, and also purchased this shut-off switch. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You just connect your wires inside here, and that will give you the ability to turn on or turn off power as you need it. So what I'm going to do is between the positive cable that will route back to the battery, instead of connecting this straight up to the battery, this will route into here, and then this short one will connect to the other lead on the inside of there. And then this end right here is what's going to connect to the battery. And that way, when I'm not in use, which will be the vast majority of the time, this will be in the off position, and I'll never have to worry about this getting power inadvertently and causing some serious damage or harm. So that's the plan. Oh, one last thing I wanted to show too as well while we're at it. I went with this setup because of the orange, because my Jeep is orange. And so I ordered this, instead of using their hook, I ordered a different one, beefier, bigger, and it's already orange. And so it comes like that, and I like it. And it has this in there too for the cable, like almost like a little bump stop in a way. And so that's the setup. So we'll get this thing partially connected up in here in my office before we take it out to hook it up onto the Jeep. All right, guys. Alright, so now we're going to get this thing partially connected and ready to mount on our Jeep. So the only thing we'll have to do after this step is done is connect up the battery connection on there. Of course, put the bolts in to mount it to the bumper. So all we're really going to need is 13 millimeter, be it a ratchet, a wrench, or a ratchet, is up to you. And so again, this will be the passenger side, this will be the driver's side, and this right here is the front of your Jeep right here. This is the rear Jeep, so your grill will be right here. So we don't want these wires to be pointing out towards the front of your Jeep. That would be hideous. So you want to make sure that this is in this type of orientation. You see you have 2 screws down there, and those are hooked in a way to allow for you to mount it on this point right here. So, and these bolts, these screws will be almost impossible to get to once you mount them on your bumper. So it's better to mount it here and now. So it will go on there like that, and at that point you will take your screwdriver, fill it, and you can mount it down if you want. I'll just hand tighten that for now because we may need to move this around. But we're going to take these nuts off. Remember, these are 13 millimeters, and there's going to be a washer and a lock washer in there for each one. They're all the same size, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. And now we're only going to be dealing with the short, heavy gauge wires first, initially. So we have our black, our red, and our yellow. So I'm going to do our black first, since I think that would make logical sense. And mount that as such. Put on your washer, your lock washer, and then the nut. When you're actually mounting this, it may make sense to add a little NTCs on there, given that this will be subject to the weather, humidity, and things like that. So in case these bolts decide they want to rust, at least they won't be stuck on there and cause a problem if you need to remove it. And then next we're going to take our yellow, pull that back, and so once you have that tightened down, once you tighten that down all the way, then you can take your boot and fish it over and you can tell that if it's cold outside and you're trying to do this outside, this boot won't give you much play. It'll probably get very rigid and be really impossible, to the point where you have to get out a heat gun or something to soften it up to get it on there. And there we go. And that's how it's looking on there. So then we'll take next we'll take our yellow one, try to get that one all ready. And on our washer, lock washer, and nut. And then we're going to pull that over And now we're going to do our positive. Follow that off with the washer, lock washer, and nut. And we will pull the boots over on these two the same as we did with the negative one after we tighten down our bolts. And now we still have this thinner gauge black wire, and we also have our here we go. We also have this one as well, the one that goes to the battery. So if you recall, we're going to mount those onto the bottom of here. Let me just tighten these down a little bit. That way it doesn't fall off when I tilt this forward. All right. And now that that's there, you see the bolt here, the nut here. We're going to take that off. We're going to take that and just going to probably route it around so that it won't be too close to where the cable is going to be pulling in and out. And put that on. Now we're going to take our negative cable here, there. We're going to put that on as well, and we're going to follow that on with a washer, a lock washer, and a nut. And of course, it'll probably be a good idea to use some anti-seize on there. Alright, and then at that point, once you have all that tightened down, you're pretty much ready to be able to take this out and get it mounted up to your Jeep. So I'll meet you guys out at the Jeep and we'll get this puppy hardwired in. Alright? Alright guys, so here is the winch now sitting on the bumper. It's sitting on top of the 4 holes that are pre-drilled already in the bumpers to come from the factory with that if you have the aftermarket. So what I'm going to do now is mount these bolts up. What you have are 4 of these square type nuts. They will slip into little slots inside of each corner of the winch, and so they're made in that square because it's just a slot with 90-degree angles, so it'll hold it in there so it won't turn as you tighten your bolt up in there. Now your bolt, of course, will go on from the bottom underneath the bumper into that nut and tighten down. So that's what we're going to do next, and then after that we'll move over to the step of running the wires. Alright, to start this out, we want to grab some of our hardware from over here. Let me just loosen this up so I can turn it whichever way I need it. So we have the hardware over here, and we're just talking about these square ones right here. We're going to preset these inside of the winch. There are slots in there on the bottom for that, and I'm just going to pick this up. And the reason those nuts are square is because we won't need a wrench on the other side, or we wouldn't even have access anyway. And I hope you can see that. So you see these little slots right here? We're just going to set them off up in there like that. That's basically it. There's 4 of them, so you just preset those off in each one of those. That's number 3. That's number 4. Push them all the way back in there, as far back as you can. And gently pick it up and set it down because you don't want them to slip out of that space. So when you go underneath, they are somewhat lined up. And then you want to set this on top of the 4 holes on top of your bumper. All right. All right, this is a view from underneath. As you can see one of the holes. And so I'm just going to move the winch to get that lined up a little better. You can see that moving. Now that that's lined up, I'm going to take one of my bolts. I'm going to put a washer on it. I'm going to put first I'm going to put on a lock washer, and then I'm going to put on a washer. See that set up there. And all right, I got all 4 in. Now it's time to tighten these up. And torque them down really good, okay? All 4. Alright, so now we're at the point where we're going to install the Fairlead that came with the kit. It's going to mount right up here. You should have received 2 shorter bolts with 2 large washers, 2 large locking nuts, and also 2 large bolts. Locking nut, bolt, and locking washer, washer and bolt and nut. So we're going to put that in. I'm going to take the washer with the bolt, and we're just going to stick it in on one part, and then I'm going to stick that in into one of the holes. And then I'm going to put the locking washer on the back end, and then I'm going to take the nut and put that on. And this is one of those things that most likely would have been easier had I done it prior to mounting this. But as you can see, it's not that big of a deal. And now I'm just going to do the other side as well. Take a washer with the nut and put it in. Put the locking washer on the back end. And take a nut. And put it on. And so there we go. And now we're going to take, I have a 3/4 inch open end here, and I have my 19 millimeter socket. This is the setup I'm using because I only have one 19 millimeter. So I'm going to put these, the 3/4 on the back, and now I'm going to go in. Oops. Like I may need, starting to cut that up too. This may be too thick to get up in there. Look at that. It can't even get up in there. Okay, let me see what else I got, okay? Give me a second. Alright, so that caught me off guard. The 19 millimeter that I was using was just, the wall was just too thick for that, and all of mine was, but I did find one old cheap one that I had laying around. Well, all of my tools are cheap when to be honest. But the wall is apparently small enough. So this is a 19 millimeter, and it does fit in there unlike my others. And so now I can go ahead and tighten it down. All right. Well, my wrench now isn't in the best spot. Let me bring that up. And now I'll tighten it up. Alright. And now I'll do the other side. The snow is really picking up out here. Alright, so now the Fairlead is attached. And most likely I'll end up painting these black as well. Alright, next we need to run the positive and the negative cable. And it's pretty easy. You can keep your wires behind the bumper over here out of the way, hidden, so they'll be back there. And then we're just going to route it up in here, and they'll come out up out here. So we're going to just route that through there, okay? No need to take anything apart. That's one of the cool things about Jeep. Routing things are generally pretty easy in here. There's the first one. As you can see, there's the black cable coming out. And now I'm going to route the positive cable. The spot right over behind the headlights. I'll bring you right up into the filter box location. Spot. Come out right in the right area. I don't want it to be too close up next to any other wires. And there we go. That. So now both wires are routed through. So now that we got both through, now we're going to fish them back by the battery. Okay? So now we're at that point. Now we're going to move over to connecting up the power connections to the battery. And here's that view of your two cables coming through from up in the engine bay side. So here's your positive and of course your negative cable down there, both coming through. So just wait and see how it looks. All right. And now it's gonna fish along here over by the battery and we'll start that connection. Now if you recall, I was letting you know we were going to be hooking this right here up between the positive cable to the battery so we can turn off or turn on this to have power. Because I didn't want it to have continuous power. So this is going to be my shut off. We're going to connect the positive cable from the winch up to one side, and then we're going to have another cable go from here over to the battery. So we're going to start that connection. This I believe is a 17 millimeter, whereas we'll just take that off. And there's a lock washer in there with it. I just want to make sure I got both of those off of there. And we have it. And then we're going to take the cable. I think I need to first break off one of these right here. So I got to take one of these off. I think it just slides out like that. In the end, I may end up just trimming it off so that I can put it back in. Probably just take my Dremel and cut out a spot just big enough for the cable itself to go through, opposed to having that whole thing off. So that'll be not today, but that's what I'm going to do. But for now, I'm going to take this and I'm going to connect it up. Let's just get that. So here is the cable right here that is going to go to the battery. So I'm going to go ahead and connect. Let's see how I want it to go this way for my purposes. And then I will take that and put that back in. And like I said before, I'm just going to cut probably a little U shape in there with my Dremel, and then that will allow for me to be able to take this and slide it back in, and so it's not just fully exposed like that. So now I'm going to take my 17mm and tighten this up a bit. And get the ratchet and crank it down a little bit more. I think that's good right there. And now we're going to move on to connecting up the battery side. First I'll take the nut out. And then I'll take this cable. And the cool thing about it, it gives you 4 different directions path. So maybe you wanted to go on one side and do more of a 90-degree in and out, or if you want to go in completely on one side and come out on the other side. But all 4 of these slide out, so you can customize it however, whatever works best for you. And even if you have multiple connections too, maybe you got more than one place you need to feed power to. So, oops, let's see here. Looks like I may need to drill this out a little bit, because it's not big enough to go in, as you can see. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drill that hole out a little bit, okay? Be right back. All right, so I'm just going to take my step-up bit here and drill that out a little bit there. All right, just enough to be able to get over that bolt. Let's see if that is enough. So I'll take that, come back over here, and a little bit more. All right, let's see if that was enough. Looks like it's still just a tad bit more to get over those threads. Okay, from this side. All right, see if that did it. There she goes. She's going on. With a little bit of persuasion. Just getting down there. Probably could have made it a tad bit bigger, but there we go. We're on. We're in there. Put the lock washer on. This on. Get that nut on there. All right, and now we want to tighten her down. There we go. There you go. So now we have that on. Now I'm going to put the bottom plate back on. And it comes with the hardware to put that back on. I have that hidden over here somewhere. So I'm just going to use that hardware to put it back on, and then we'll come back in and connect it up. All right, as you can see on here, I've already pre-installed 3 of them. See the nuts, the bolts are longer than my purposes. And I think they make them that long so that you can mount them on something to keep this secure and stable in one spot. I really don't have a spot back there, at least that I found yet. Maybe in the future I will. And then I'll probably be able to use that, but that's how it goes. So it's really just taking the bolt, it's an Allen wrench style, slipping it on through. And these are threaded nuts right here. Got the threaded nylon up in there to help keep it on there and not slipping off. So no need for a lock washer. And so I'll just take this, hold my Allen wrench on it, and then it takes an 8mm on this side, and I'll get that all connected up, and then we'll connect it to the battery. All right, so now we're gonna wire this up to the battery. Don't mind my loose wires back here, random wires connected up to the battery. I do have the 6 switch pod, and I just installed that not too long ago, and I still need to hook up all of my lights and everything through it. So all of these will be coming off, you know, for the rock lights and everything else, and running through that switch pod. But for now, they are right there. But before the springtime come around, when the Jeep gets back on the road, they will be hooked up properly. And so now I'm just taking the negative, and I'm going to hook it up onto the negative side, which is over here. And don't use, let me get something pointy. Hopefully you can see that. Don't use this one to connect it to, and the same on the positive side. Don't use that one. The nut itself is, it has this convex bottom, tapered bottom that is used to tighten the actual post, tighten this up around the post. And so by putting something in between there like this, you will be preventing that from being able to actually tighten up, and it will never get tight around the post. So that would be the reason why. So don't use that one. Use the one further back for your connection. All right. Take that. Connect it over like that. Tighten it down. There's one right there. And now I'm going to do the power setup. So what I'll do first, just to be safe, I'm going to take this right here, and I'm going to move it to the off. So this will be giving it power. This will be no power. All right. All right, so after more and more looking at it, I didn't like the big opening, so I went on and did what I did. I took those little tabs, I drilled it out and slid it back in. So I think that looks a lot cleaner than that, just having that big hole there. So I did that for both sides. All right, so I'm gonna put this in the off position, which is in, And now I'm going to go ahead and route this through. Now, I was hoping to find some channels down here to run, and I may find that in the future to run these cables up underneath here, because you do have these plastic things down there with cables running through. You don't really see much room down there for these cables. In the future, I'll research to see if I can relocate these, but for now, I'm going to run them over the top over here and connect them up. So let me see here. Let's see here. Right now, yeah, I think that should work right over up in here. It's kind of big, so I probably want it to be in a position where I can easily get to it. Let me see here. I'm just trying to think of what is the best routing for this, because it's not like I have a whole lot. If this was like maybe a 2-footer, I would feel a lot more comfortable routing it this way, and that may be what I want to do. Oh yeah, that works out pretty good. That way it sits over here. When I need to check my oil, I can easily just slide that out of the way. But for now, I think I'll have it setting. Are you guys able to see that? Here, let me move it over that way a little bit. So I routed the cable along through here, around here. The dipstick is right here. So for now, I think I'm gonna have it right there. That way I got quick and easy access to it. Over here was getting a little too crowded. I already have another switch down there for my 6-gang pot switch. And so I want to just have things jammed down up in there. So for now, I think this is the best spot. I probably will create some type of bracket and relocate it. I kind of like, I'm not sure if you guys can see that. I kind of like this spot right here for it. Right here will probably be a perfect spot for it. But to do that, that means I need a longer cable than that 12-footer I have. I'm thinking if I had probably 24-inch 2-footer, that probably would have been enough, maybe a little bit more than 24 inches. But that's where I think I will end up relocating it. But for now, I'm going to have it right over there by the dipstick area. And so now we're going to connect up the power. Tighten that down so it's nice and tight down right now. And let's see here. Let me disconnect that. I think I'm gonna do one other thing. Again, this is only temporarily anyway, because I already decided that I'm gonna mount it over there, make a nice little bracket to connect it to and mount it over there. And I think that'll look nice and professional in the end, but that's going to require a little bit of fabrication that I'm not going to be able to do right now tonight. So I'm taking this back off because I want to route the cable. Make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, you can. I want to route the cable up underneath this over here. Being careful because there is a vacuum line right here and I don't want to break that. So I think that is good, and I'll still be able to move that out of the way in the case that I need to check my oil. Especially since it'll be time to give it an oil change from this oil just sitting in here all winter. So once the spring comes around. And now I can tighten her down. All right, so now we're all hooked up. All the power is hooked up as it's supposed to be. And now we'll be able to go ahead and finish up. All right, so I have the power off still. But right now I'm going to go ahead
and take the cable here, right here. I'm going to connect up the hook that I have. Remember, we have this switch over here where we can engage the clutch or disengage the clutch. When you have it upwards, like that, it's engaged. That means that when that motor is on, it's pulling this cable or releasing the cable. We're going to turn it this way to disengage. That means when we pull it, we can just easily just pull the rope out by hand, okay? And we're going to work on it with a disengage. I suggest you guys always work on it with a disengage. So we're going to be hooking on this right here, hook right here onto it. And this little, I call it the bump stop, I'm not sure of the proper name for it. We're going to be connecting this up to it too as well. I guess I'll probably put it somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's see here. I guess, yeah, really up against there, closer to that area. So that's going to be the next phase right here. Let's see here, like I need an Allen's wrench. I'm not sure if it came, it appears to have come with an Allen's wrench. So we'll go ahead and start that to connect that on, okay? All right, so I've taken out 2 of the bolts. And so I'm gonna just fish this. See, it's just rubber, it's not metal. I'm just gonna split that open and put the cable in between there. And I guess that's about as good as location as others. I'm not sure if it's preferred to be down further or not, but I think that if it was pulling back, that would probably be a good spot for it to go ahead and stop it from coming in there. Or try to. I doubt if it'll be strong enough to stop that motor. And so now we'll fish the 2 bolts back through, one at a time. That way I can squeeze it down and get one of the nuts on. And now tighten that down. Put the other one on in. And tighten that on down. There we go. All right, what do you think? All right. And now we're going to bend this out a little bit. Take the cotter pin out. Let me grab my needle nose. Take the pin out. Put that in. And now put the cotter pin back in. I like this a lot better, this hook a lot better than the one that came with it. Not just because it's orange like my Jeep, just because it seems to be a bit beefier. And definitely not rust up right away. I believe that other one would have started rusting the moment it got a little bit of humidity or moisture on it. There we go. All right, so now we're gonna turn on the power and give her a try. All right, so you got two different ways to operate this, by the wired remote or by the wireless remote. And so for the wired remote, we plug it in right here. And I'll take that and plug it in. There we go. I'm going to turn on the power switch, that secondary, so that should give us power. And now let's give her a try. Oh, we need to engage it. So I'm going to take this switch and I'm going to swing it back around to the engage. There we go. And give it a try. Hold my cable tight while I do that. And I'm going out. Works good. And now I'm going to try it with the wireless. For this wireless one, they suggest you hold down both buttons at the same time until the light comes on. And I'm sure you can see that light. And now you have your out and your in, so we'll go out first. And that works, and now we'll go in. And that works. So I think that was a nice success, guys. We got it all hooked up. It looks pretty good overall. What you guys can do now, you can hit that subscribe button down there. There's a few other things I'm doing on my Jeep and a few things I've done in the past that are out there on YouTube, and I would like for you guys to go take a look at them. Hit the like if you like it, and if you want to see more, please hit this subscribe button. Until next time, guys, have a good night.